Hello and welcome back to Animated Literacy. This is part 20 of the overview and research for the program, and this is the final part of the overview and research. After this, we're going to start going through the actual lesson plans for Animated Literacy one at a time. This lesson is going to focus on the use of manipulatives, or for children with toys, that can be used for teaching both word recognition and comprehension. All of the things that I'm going to be doing here are based on this booklet that is titled Manipulative Based Reading Instruction. And this is something that you certainly can do with a large group, but it's really most effective either done with a small group or one-on-one instruction. We did a lot of this with our daughter when she was in preschool, which is why it was that she was able to write our shopping lists and she was able to read the names of her toys. Through this process, she learned all of her letters, all of her spelling patterns, including her vowel patterns, before she went on to school and before she was asked to read to us from a book. She begged to read with these kinds of activities, but a couple times that we did ask her to read to us from a book when she was in preschool, she said no and meant it. So she went on to school as she was developing fluency and then started begging to read to us from books. Once she knew that she was fluent enough with her word recognition that she could read with fluency and intonation and expression, and so she was well on the road to taking off and reading and writing. First step that we're going to do is we're going to start to pull out some toys. And here's our toy bag that you'll see on our website. And the actual toy bag contains over 100 items that represent all of the consonant and vowel sounds and virtually all of the vowel patterns that are needed to read and write. So for this lesson, I've taken and only put a select number of toys. So I kind of put all the others aside so that I could focus on certain toys that I wanted to use in the lesson. Kids love to see you pulling out items and trying to guess what might come out of the box. So here is a can. Now you can take as much time as you want as you're pulling out the toys to talk about the toys and their various attributes and uses. Here is a van. Here is a dog. Let's see what's next. Here's a jar with a lid. And now we have a frog. So you could talk about what kind of frog do. Oh, it can jump. Here's a bee. What can a bee do? Oh, a bee could sting. A bee can fly. Here's a log. Where does a log come from? From a tree that's been cut down. Here's a fish. What's something a fish can do? It can blow bubbles. It can swim. Here's an owl. What can an owl do? It can hoot. It can fly. Here's a car. It can roll. You could drive a car. Here's a shark. What can a shark do? Oh, it can bite. It can swim. And here is a sheep. What can a sheep do? A sheep can baa. A sheep can run. A sheep can walk. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start to decode the names of those toys. So I'll pull out either a notepad, or in this case I just have some note cards so that they are a little bit stiffer to use in this lesson, but in my classroom I use the least expensive notepads that I could find because we go through a lot of these. So I draw a circle on my paper. What does that circle tell me? Oh, you're going to write a noun. Why do I use a circle for a noun? Because a noun is something we can trace around. It has a shape. Now I'm always going to start with a vowel, and I'll give you two different ways to do this activity. This is the way that I did it for years. If I write an E and then I put another E, who can tell me what E spells? E! So there's Eve leaping over the trees. Now if I put an S and I put an H, those two letters go together to spell what sound? Sh, for shaving or shampooing. Now if I put a P on the end, what does Polly Panda sound? P, for painting. So now let's put all three of those sounds together. And in the early stages, I'm going to just go really slow, say it very carefully, so I'm practically saying the words to the kids so they can hear how all those sounds blend. Let's go. Sheep. Again. Sheep. Who can hear the name of a toy? Can you tell me what toy you think that name, that those letters name. Now the child gestures back to me before they name it. They go shh, eep, and then hopefully the child tells me that's a sheep. Now I found, especially when I was working with children who were learning English as a second language, but also for some of my English-speaking kids, they might stare at the word and not say it. And at first I thought they weren't hearing the name of the toy. Then one day I said to the children, can you show me which toy it names? So the child who wouldn't name it would often reach down, pick up the correct toy, and then when I nodded my approval, they'd go sheep. Vygotsky tells us what's happening there. Vygotsky tells us in the early stages of language development, the actions come before the words. So this was a child who was in the early stages of language. The child needed the action of picking up the toy before they could name the toy. Then he says, as language is developed to higher levels, now the action determines the word. So your children who are at a higher level will be able to name the word and then perform the action of picking it up. Your children who are at a lower level may need to pick up the toy before they can name it. So now we just take the sheep and put it on top of its card. So here's another one. I put a circle. What does that tell me? Oh, you're going to write a noun. I put an O. Show me Dr. Ollie Ostrich. Ah, saying aw for Ollie. Now let's put an F. What's Farley Fox's sound? F for fishing. Let's add an R. What's Rosie Raccoon's sound? R for riding. What was Ollie Ostrich sound? Ah. And now what's the sound for Gilda Goose? G, gliding. So now let's see if we can put those together. Frog. Again. Frog. Can you find the toy it names? And now ideally you have them say the word and then pick up the toy. But if they can't, let them show you the toy and then tell you the word. Okay, so now we can put frog on its card. Now we did a little bit differently when we were doing our drawing and labeling, where we wrote the entire rhyme first. So let's try doing one that way. Here's my circle, so I'm going to write a noun. So now I can start with my vowel, and everyone itches for Ichabod. Now I'm going to put Sheriff Shadrach's sound at the end of it, so they show me shaving. Now let's put those two sounds together. Ish. Now I often stop to talk about why I put one finger and why I put two fingers. So if I say to the children, why did I place one finger here? Oh, Ichabod only needs one letter to spell his sound. Why did I put two fingers? Sheriff Shadrach needs two letters. I need to start introducing sounds that are spelled with more than one letter right away. Otherwise, you get kids going, Issa, because when they've been trained to read with books like Dan Can Fan Jan, where everything is a short vowel and every single letter represents a sound, you're directly teaching a false concept about language. And then we get kids who try to produce every single sound in the word. So they need to know from the very beginning that some sounds are spelled with one letter, some are spelled with two. Now I can put an F at the front. Everyone show me fishing. Now let's put the three sounds together. Let me do that again. Fish. Again. Fish. Now, child hopefully tells me the word, but once again, if they can't, let them pick up the toy and then tell you the word and then put the word on top. So now they have learned that those are nouns by reading in Brian Cleary's book, that's titled A Mink, a Fink, a Skating Rink. So here's how that book read. Hill is a noun, mill is a noun. Even Uncle Phil is a noun. Gown is a noun, crown is a noun. In fact, our whole hometown is a noun. And if you've read that book a variety of times, you're going to run into tons of nouns that rhyme, and that's why the kids are able to tell me that those words are a noun. We're going to move to adjectives next, so we start moving into our two-word phrases. And so once again, we're going to start with a Brian Cleary book that tells us what an adjective is, and so that now my children can learn that vocabulary word. Adjectives are words like hairy, scary, cool, and ordinary. They describe like tan and tall, funny, frisky, smooth, and small. And all of the adjectives listed over here are included in that one book. So now when we write an adjective, we're going to put an arrow on our card because my kids learned that adjectives point to other words. So I can put an adjective over here and then write my adjective. Show me the sound for WH. Now I don't care if they give me whistling whale sound or winky walrus's sound because I'm not teaching them the difference between WH and W. It's close enough. So they may be washing now for winky walrus, or they may be blowing a whistle for the white whistling whale. Now when we do our patterns that have a blank, I'll write both letters, I, and I'll call it I blank E or I space E. What does I blank E spell? I, for riding his bike, Ike riding his bike into the sky. What's the sound for T? Timmy Tiger's tickling. So now we've got wh-ite. Again, wh-ite. Can you tell me what that word says? White. What can you point to that is white? Oh, I could point to my note cards are white. My sheep is white, so white could describe my sheep. My jar is white, so we could point to that. And we can tour it all around, finding things that are white to point to. So now we have our white sheep. Now we're going to move on to verbs. And once again, we can go to Brian Cleary so that he defines what a verb is. And Brian Cleary tells us, whether you scale a wall or a fish, make a design on a cup or a dish, take out the garbage or sharpen your knife, verbs are a part of our everyday life. So now our kids learn that a verb has a line under it because verbs help you move from place to place. So let's read a book that has a lot of verbs in it. So here's Barnyard Dance by Sandra Boynton. And I love the way she has used many, many verbs in her book for us to play with. So all of these verbs are included in her book. And her book starts out reading like this. Stomp your feet, clap your hands, everybody ready for a barnyard dance. So now I'll take and I'll stretch out a jump rope, lay it down on the floor, and have the kids choose the verbs from Sandra Boynton's book that can be used to move from one end of that line all the way to the other end. So one child can get up and stomp from one end to the other. Another child can bounce from one end to the other. Another child can strut from one end to the other. Another child can spin while going along the line. Another child can scramble by going very fast. Another child can trot from one end to the other. And then we have these other verbs that give motions that are not moving along the line. So now when I put a line on my page, my kids tell me, oh, those are verbs. They used to tell me those are line words, and if they say that, that's okay too. So I'll put a line here. Now we start again with our vowel, So they're pointing up to Uncle Upton. Show me the sound for R, riding. Up for Uncle Upton. N for nibbling. Now let's put those together. Run. Again. Run. And the child gets up and shows me running. Now let's look at all the toys I picked out. Which toys can run? Oh, a pup or a dog can run. A sheep can run. Can a fish run? No, what's a fish do? Oh, it swims. It doesn't run. Can a log run? No, it can roll, but a log wouldn't run. So we can go through them and we can start to identify all of those. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start moving towards being able to read our books. And the school district that I taught in always had a required set of books that my kids had to be tested in. So I had to teach my kids the little books, and that's not really a problem. I'll show you how to integrate those little books. Here's one of the little books that the school district was using, and it had a page that looks like this, where the sentence would read, we see a giraffe, and they didn't have to read the giraffe, they could just look at the picture. We see two elephants, and once again, they didn't have to read the word elephant, they could simply look at the picture. Or another that we had to test the kids in every month were little books that looked like this. And these books are all around the date, around 2000. And California hasn't had a new reading adoption since 2000. So these are still current books that are used in the school district. So on this one, it says, I can see a blue pond. I can see a green frog. Now, what do you think this page says? I can see a red flower. Now, the kids don't actually have to be able to read in order to correctly identify the words in those books. And here was one that even is a little bit simpler. The train can go, the car can go. So what I'm going to do is, before taking out the book and having the children read from the book, I want them to be able to read the sentence, then be able to show me through the use of the toys what the sentence has to say. So we're going to start out with a sentence that is almost identical to the one that they will later be tested in when I pull out and have them read from the book. So I'd put this sentence there and I'd say to the kids, okay, everybody look at the sentence, see if you can find the word in the sentence that names a toy. Find the noun. So they look up here and they find the word pup, and we put a circle around it. Who can find the word that names something you can do? Now, all of these words would have appeared and been used in their drawing and labeling lessons, so none of these words are new to them. So we put a line under go. Who can find a word that's helping go? Oh, can. So that's part of our verb. And the is kind of like an adjective because it's the pup. It's pointing to the pup. Now, who can show me that sentence with the use of the toy? So the child comes over, picks up the pup or the dog, in this case a pup, and shows me the pup going. Where do you think that pup might go? Why would the pup like to go there? Oh, maybe it sees a cat and it wants to run to the cat. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start to use Post-it notes to replace those words. And when I'm doing this, I purposefully want to write words that are going to create a mismatch. We need to teach children that it's okay to make mistakes. And I start teaching that concept on the first day of school when we're using Frere Jacques. We start out with names of kids in the classroom. Are you at the doctor's? Brother Ollie, Brother Ollie. Ollie's bells are saying, ah, ah, ah. Then if we put a girl in there, are you at the doctor's? Are you at the doctor's? Brother Susie. Now the kids go, oh, Mr. Stone, that's wrong. Oh, thank you for correcting me. What's the matter with that? Oh, she can't be a brother. She has to be a sister. So now we change it. Are you at the doctor's, Sister Susie? So that concept of it's okay to make mistakes has been introduced on the first day of school, and we're building on that concept all year long. I gave you the example of the wheels on the bus. If we change the word bus to the word pup, and we sing the wheels on the pup go round and round, my kids go, Mr. Stone, there's a problem. They love to tattle, and this is what good readers have to be able to do, is find inconsistencies in their reading. So we can talk about mistakes that turned out to be very positive. And in a lot of cases, many of our inventions actually came from mistakes. We're told that Coca-Cola was invented when an employee at a pharmacy took syrup that was supposed to cure hangovers and accidentally mixed it with carbonated water and invented Coca-Cola. The glue for Post-it notes was invented by a chemist who was trying to create a permanent glue. Scotchgard was invented when a researcher accidentally spilled chemicals on her tennis shoes, and later, when she washed the shoes, she found that the spot where the chemicals didn't stain the way the rest of the shoes did. So our children need to know that it's okay to make mistakes, and they love that. So here's an example where a child was doing a drawing and labeling exercise, and she has labeled her picture with a cushiony seat, rainy windshield, the sheep can protect, the tire, the screeching tire, the driving Jeep. Then she takes, and I had written a sentence on this page where the Jeep is on the sheep. Well, she thinks that doesn't make sense. So when she writes her own sentence on her paper, she writes this sentence. Why is the Jeep on a sheep? The sheep is supposed to sit in the Jeep. So kids really love finding things that are wrong. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my Post-it notes that were invented when somebody was trying to invent a permanent glue. And I'm going to start replacing words here. So this says the pup can go. So if I put bark on top of the word go, now the children need to read the sentence and show me what it means. So now what does it say? The pup can bark. So a child has to now pick up the pup, put it up and show me barking. So now I'm going to start purposefully creating mismatches. So if I come up here now and I change the word pup to the word bird, now the kids gesture and sound out the word bird, and hopefully somebody says, Mr. Stone, there's a problem. Oh, what's the matter? Oh, birds don't bark? Well, what's something a bird can do? Oh, it can fly, a bird can chirp, a bird can lay eggs. So now we take and we think out some way to fix it. So let's change the word bark to something that a bird can do. So here we have fly. The bird can fly, so when the child reads the sentence, they show me the bird flying. So here's our owl is a bird, and here he is flying, okay? So now I'm going to do something to create another mismatch. So if I write on my page, and we can decode the word together, fish, and I put that on top of bird, now the children figure out the sentence, and they go, oh, Mr. Stone, there's a problem. Why? What's the matter? Well, your sentence says the fish can fly. You know what? There are some flying fish, but most fish don't fly. And in fact, even flying fish are really jumping. So now we have to figure out something for our fish to do. What can a fish do? Well, what's the sound for Sadie Seal? S. What's the sound for Winky Walrus? W. What's the sound for Ichabod? I. What's the sound for Mimi Mermaid? What can a fish do? Oh, a fish can swim. So now we need to create another mismatch. So I look over here, and maybe we write the word bee and put that on top of fish. Oh, Mr. Stone, there's a problem. And again, the motivation comes here by kids being able to find mistakes that I've made. And I always want to let them know it's okay to make mistakes. We learn a lot when we fix our mistakes. So now it says the bee can swim. What can a bee do? Oh, a bee can sting, a bee can buzz, a bee can fly. Now we can also change these other words. We could change the word the to this, or a, or that. We could change the word can to will, or might, or should, or could. So gradually we can just keep changing these words over and over again. When I'm doing this, I will take an entire lesson with just one sentence frame. And I'll keep changing words throughout that lesson. And then at the end of the lesson, I'll peel the pages off, ask the kids to read me their words, and then they can take these pages back to their seat, draw a picture of it, and then write a sentence about their picture. So then the next time they come up, I'll give them a different sentence frame, and we'll repeat the process. Here we've got one that says, I can see a green bug. And that's the same sentence pattern that comes out of this book. So if I've done this in advance of having the kids read the little books, they'll be able to actually decode all the words, form the picture, demonstrate the comprehension. Whereas when they're using the little book, I can't tell if they're using the pictures for comprehension. I can't tell if they're using the pictures for word recognition. And I want all of those things to happen at once. Now, what took place with these little books in my school district is as long as they had that level of picture support, the kids were moving along really fast. But then all of a sudden, when they got to more difficult text, those strategies stopped working and the kids hit that slump. Whereas in my classroom, where the kids had to be able to decode the words, pick up the toys, show me the meaning, they just got better and better at doing that. And when other classrooms were hitting that wall that they couldn't move past, mine were hitting an explosion instead, because they could use the same strategies in later books that they had used in their earlier books. Or we can take and put another sentence pattern up. The bird can fly to the car. So gradually we get more and more complex sentences, but we keep following that same pattern of covering up words with post-it notes, creating mismatches, having the kids find the mismatches and correct them so that they're working on both comprehension and word recognition simultaneously. So thank you again for joining me for the overview and research for the program. In our next session, we'll be looking at lesson number 1 for animated literacy from the Story, Song, and Action book. So hope to see you then.